Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Sweet tea here on this lovely Friday afternoon. It is so beautiful outside. I think most of the snow has probably already melted. Thank God for that, because really. But look forward to the rest of next week. For what I understand, it's supposed to be a bit warmer. Probably maybe around 50 or 60 something, almost spring like. So don't assume that spring is here just because y'all assume that groundhog didn't, I guess, didn't see a shadow. Don't let this weather fool you. But just for safety reasons, still dress like you do, like it's still wintertime. Okay, don't try to dress like it's spring because it's not here yet. We got like another month to go before actual spring gets here. So don't rush it. Okay. So remember when I always say that I'm not psychic, and I sometimes I'd rather be wrong. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I was right. Last night before while I was going through my Facebook, I saw uh, a news article from Boston. The thing about Boston, even though I know not too many black folks live there, uh, I guess I'm just not too crazy about Boston. Let's just say that. But I was interested in the story I just saw. Now, I shared it yesterday. Y'all can look for it if you want to. But if not, you can Google it. It's somewhere in there. But when I read that story, let me put this in more of an abbreviated form. Let's just say that. Okay. Remember what I talked about yesterday about teachers should need more training about uh how to deal with autistic kids, whether they're in the classroom. Well, this one is about a teacher taking an autistic child to the restroom. Now, mind you, if you work with special need kids, there should be at least one regular teacher and one, what they call paraprofessional, but I call them teacher's aides. Let's say that. Okay, so I think, for what I understand, this child is probably, let's say, kindergarten age, and maybe nonverbal. Now, when you're dealing with an autistic nonverbal child, sometimes you may teach children sign language. Like if they have to go to the bathroom, they sign and say bathroom or toilet or whatever sign that that being taught to that child. Well, or whether or not they know that child had to use the bathroom, or sometimes they have like a certain time to where they take children to the bathroom. That's probably it. Like back in the day, if the whole class go to the bathroom, not just let one child go and use the bathroom. No, the whole class go. That's why I remember when I was in kindergarten, the whole class go to the bathroom. If one child go to the bathroom, then the whole class go. So it make it easier. For make sure that all children went to the bathroom all at once. Let's just say that. Okay, so back to the story. What happened was, like I said, the teacher or teacher's aide decided, to, you know, walk with the child to the bathroom, right? Okay. Uh, I guess they thought, that, the child was in the toilet, just sitting in the toilet, right, doing their business. Okay, the teacher decides, go and get other two students who want to go to the bathroom. Now, to me, that don't make no sense. That really don't make no sense to me. Why in the world are you going back to get two students if you left that autistic child in the bathroom by themselves? That don't make no sense, right? That really don't. So, like I said, the teacher went back and got two other students, and by the time they brought the students to the same bathroom which they left the child. Guess what? Child sneaked off. Child, done their business and just up and left. The thing is, that baby has decided to go out to wander. Now, by the way, how I see the school, it's a good thing that school got a fence. That fence, actually protected that child from going out into whatever street or whatever, area that's dangerous. I'm glad that school has a fence. And before you know it, the teacher found out that, that student is gone, but they found them later, which I thank God, they found that student just in time. Because, like I tell you, autistic children are very curious. They want to explore. They want to know everything. Like sometimes, when people be wondering why autistic children stare at them, they kind of like, I guess you say they're kind of like a computer. They want to actually know you, to a point. Don't be mad, if they look at you for some reason, like, why are you looking at me? Why, stop staring at me. That kind of attitude. Don't do that, please. Please don't do that. He don't mean to. He or she don't mean to. They're autistic. They don't know better. That's the thing. The fact is that people have an attitude about autistic kids. And actually what that teacher or teacher aide has done to that poor child, like I said, it's a good thing that child didn't go no further. All that child did is once he or she got bathroom, they decided to go out. Now, they opened the door. Now, that's the thing. That's also make me wonder, how in the world is a kindergarten student be able to open the door? Now, the thing is, I can understand you can't lock the door for fire reasons, but yet, that student, kind of went out, and that's the scary part. This is why I wish, they have, like door handles up high to a point to where a little child can't open the door. You know what I'm saying? But, it depends. This is why I see now why more parents are homeschooling autistic kids. Because it's not just the noise level or anything like that. It's about safety. Parents are concerned about the safety. Whether it's safety for, the teachers to neglect their child, or for their child to be bullied by others, or it's just like, schools just don't care, about their kids. All they care about is the money that they are, that's coming in. That's the thing. That's all they care about is the money they get, from the government, for how many, special needs children they have. And this is why I say I don't blame parents for homeschooling their children, or find someone that will help take care of their children, that will teach their children. That's even better, because at least they'll be like, one-on-one, and plus they'll be someone they trust. Less meltdowns, less tantrum. Sorry, less. They spend more time. Quiet. they learn at their own pace. That's that's a good way of of saying it. Or like I said, it can work with teachers who used to work with special needs kids. Somebody retired or something like that. That works. But I mean, when I saw that story, I mean, the mom, she took the child out of that school, which, I'm glad. Clap for her. She decided to take that baby out of school, out of that school, until she figured out what she got to do. And I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping, praying that she decided to do homeschooling or find someone that's able to homeschool her child. Because to me, it seems like autistic children should not be in public school. I remember when, like I said, when I was a bus monitor, uh, Hamilton County Department of Developmental Disabilities, now it's called, they used to have separate schools to where, kids with special needs from preschool up until graduating high school. Uh, Even though it's all is in one school, they have different classes. And, it's a joy, to always go to these different areas of Cincinnati where they have these schools at. And I mean, this was like back in the early 2000s, and it's sad, that they no longer have that. They shut down these schools, and I really didn't like the fact they did that, because I mean, back then, kids are independent, well, somewhat independent. They learn, so many teachers learn about them. They love those kids and stuff like that. And I mean, it's amazing. That every time that I work there, work at the bus company, certain bus company, I love spending time with them. You know, spending time with each and every child. It doesn't matter if they're different, physically or mentally. I still work with them. And I tell you the truth. This is what I'm saying. I really do. I hate how these public schools are treating our autistic kids and teens. I do. I really do. And you know what? Actually, come to think of it, like I said, I'm glad that our sister congregation, Gray Road, is, let's just say, a school, for high school students. But I'm hoping that they have something for autistic teens, someone for special needs teens, because that'll be the perfect school for them to go to. I really do want them to go, to that type of school, to where maybe there are some teachers that are trained in special needs education, that can work there. That'd be even better. So that way they don't have to deal with bullies. They don't have to deal with teachers that don't care about them. The school administration that covering up what's going on, that kind of stuff. There's a lot. There's a lot that we have to learn about. And then when I saw that video, that article, that made me mad. That made me so mad. This is why I'm so glad that Sonora is grown. This is why Sonora is. I'm just so thankful she's grown. 'Cause I swear, if I would went back in the day when she was like in elementary school, and teachers, ain't helping her or something like that, I would love to homeschool her myself. But back then, I had to work. But you know what? This is why I said teachers need more special needs training. I don't care if it's from someone, with who experience with autistic kids, or whatever. If they have to go back to school, go back to school. If not, please go to a workshop, go to a meeting, go to a conference if you have to, so y'all can learn. Go stay at that conference for a few days, so y'all should know. Well, I understand. I think some police departments are out, are showing people on how to, work, communicate. Let's just say that with autistic children and adults. And I think this is what, teachers should also do the same thing, to teach them. And not only teach the teachers, but the school administration as well. You can't hide. You can't hide what's happening in school. They seem to forget there are security cameras. There are witnesses who will, definitely tell about what's going on. And this is why I'm saying, but okay, you know what? I meant to. I know I said I was going to tell this story about this student where I was working at a child care center. Now, I'm not going to, say the name of that child care center, because I'm just thankful I'm no longer working there. But you know what? It's all good. Because actually, I was thinking about, working there anyway. I want to work at one in Pleasant Ridge, but at that time, they didn't want any more. And I'm thinking, you know what? Okay, no problem. I'm good. But, let me get started. Okay. Oh, sorry, y'all. I don't know what's going on with my neighbors. I just hear a lot of noise, but anyhow. Okay. Like I said, I'm a floater. I'm floating between classrooms, and sometimes like if Pleasant Ridge don't have enough staff, they call Norwood and ask, hey, could you send me over to Pleasant Ridge? I said, sure, no problem. I only take one bus ride over there, right? No problem. And sometimes they may, ask Norwood, like, hey, could I, stay over there, for a few more days? And I said, sure, no problem. Like I said, I ride one bus over there, just get off, just a little walk, no problem. Okay. Norwood. Okay. Uh, like I said, I used to float. Okay. I finally went over to, I guess you could say, I think it's like, I think like first, from kindergarten to like second grade, I think. Okay, no problem. You know, it's around nap time. Okay, sometimes I know around nap time you encounter, these kids, like after a meal, they get sleepy. No problem. Sometimes you might encounter a few students that don't want to go to sleep. Mind you. Okay, this one girl, let's call her Natasha. Okay, this little girl, it seemed like every time, that I'd be there, this little girl is restless. She don't want to go to sleep. She wants to sit up. And see, when she sits up, there are a few others that decide, hey, if she's up, I want to be up too. And I looked at her like, little girl, good and well, you need to go to sleep, in my quiet voice, mind you. Because like I said, rest of the kids are asleep. This little girl don't want to go to sleep. And at that time, I'm thinking, okay, she might want to, play something, do something, maybe, just, do a little something quiet, just so she won't wake up the other kids, right? This little girl wants to run around like crazy. I mean, she almost, want to go to the other classrooms and stuff like that, bothering the other kids. And I said, little girl, I had to sit with her at the time because she don't want to stay still. Now, before y'all thinking she might have ADHD or ADD or something like that, she probably did. At the time, I don't know. But her parents, honey, I tell you the truth, her parents are a mess. I mean, it's like sometimes, they don't want to come and pick her up. Okay? I think last time I saw her, I saw one of the parents, right? I think I was talking to the mom. No, I think it was the dad. Her dad. Her dad came by, picked her up. And I, tried to talk to him a little bit. And I, let him know, Mr. So and so, you know, you have to do something with your daughter. Your daughter won't go to sleep. She don't want to stay still. She, don't want to pay attention. Now, at that time, I know she probably is a bit not saying a bit, but she probably is autistic. That's why I'm saying, I stay with her, make sure she stays down and, being quiet and stuff like that. Because, everybody was asleep. So what happened was, he looked at me like he wanted to do something to me. And he took his daughter with him and looked at me. And I looked at him like, what? What did I do? Right? Okay. So at the time, I think Wayne was our director at the time. They decided to report me for the fact that I told the truth that their daughter, won't stay still. She won't, behave. She don't want to take a nap. And so I think Wayne came in at the time. I explained to him what happened. And he said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I guess sure enough, he must have talked to the parents, about, the situation. And they decided to take her out. And I'm thinking, you know what? It's probably the best thing because, really, I know she's a special needs child. She needs to be someplace, with other special need kids or one-on-one because this child is not going to sleep. She's not going to take a nap. She's not going to behave, nothing. And that was actually the best thing because that child care center is not equipped. Let's just say that. It's not equipped for taking care of special need kids. I think the problem is that I hate it when most parents, put their special needs kids in a normal child care setting, thinking, that they're going to be all right. No, they're not going to be all right. I tell you that for a fact. If you want, if your child has special needs and you want to put your child in a child care center, find one that works with special needs kids. Don't just drop them anywhere. Because that's the problem. Y'all just assume that, they ought to be around normal kids. No. Please don't assume that. As parents or grandparents or caregivers, whoever you are, y'all need to start investigating. Y'all need to look around. Ask for help. Ask for someone who has an autistic child where they send their children to. Where they send their child to. Okay? Don't, like I said, don't assume that just because you put a child in a normal child care, they're going to be taken care of. No. Why? Because there are a limited amount of children to each adult. And if you put your child with normal kids, they're not going to have time to spend with your special needs child. They are too busy, trying to teach and interact with the normal kids. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. I'm just, letting y'all know. If you are looking for a school, that works with special needs, don't be afraid to investigate. Because when Sonora, you know, she went from Parham to Withrow. And I am so glad that she was at Withrow, because Withrow have experience, with special needs kids as uh, well as normal kids. Let's say that. And this is why I'm so happy, that she was able, to be there, at the time at Withrow University. And her old principal, she transferred from Parham to Withrow for a time. By then, I think by the time Sonora became junior, she retired. And I think I told her one time, I said, I call her Queen B. I said, Queen B, thank you for being there for my baby. Any other time, folks probably would have ignored her, probably would have treated her wrong. Y'all did great. I loved her. I mean, really. You know, I don't know if she's still around or not. I'm hoping she is. Because, I tell you, we need more principals and, teachers, whole teachers like her. Now, I don't know if they still teaching or not. They probably still is, maybe. Or probably retired, really. Because I know one of her teachers died in a terrible accident. But I think the others either probably retired or probably still teaching, whichever way, But you know what? It's all good. This is what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to investigate. You know, just be your own detective. Okay. This is why I'm teaching this now. So that hopefully, down the road, I really don't want the same thing happen. With this, with your child, with what happened with that child in Boston. Okay. So, all right, yeah. So that's about all that I'm going to talk about today. I might talk more about it, if not tomorrow, maybe Monday, because I'm hoping Saturday I want to talk about something different, maybe. But until then, I hope y'all have a blessed day. Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy your weekend. Y'all take care. Sweet Tea out.